We also have a chance to build access that's going to work with all these new technologies that are coming. We don't have time to burrow into it, but we have technologies coming that just plain won't work with our current access solutions and the way we're doing things. And we're not prepared. And the AT companies, they're hanging on by their fingernails. They do not have the ability. We need to have an infrastructure in there that makes it a lot easier for them as well to help us, to keep up and help us. And finally, we have an opportunity to build something that can be replicated locally in other countries. Countries that don't have good access technologies and infrastructure, and we can allow them to be able to get the accessibility for their citizens and for our citizens actually as we travel in these different countries. So all we need to do is to do it. And who's going to do it? The team that we're talking about doing this, mainstream industry, AT industry, consumers and consumer advocates, researchers, policymakers, internationally. We have a unique combination, and the interesting thing is that adoption is built in. We're actually developing this with the users and the developers all together so that when we're done, it's basically we're done. It's not a develop it and then see if you can go sell it kind of situation. So thank you very much. I will close by saying that ONSE, Technosite are all key partners in this effort, and we're in the process now of trying to build it, as you saw in the video, to try and create this new vision. Thank you.
Great, many thanks for your fantastic and didactical speech or conference. As we have some time, like 10-15 minutes before the break, I would like to open for discussion just now, because as Greg has already said, it's because we have to the importance of this INREDIS International Workshop is more the interchange of ideas or the joint communication of our ideas, because really the NPII is very similar to a new concept that we are fostering in Spain, which is the social cloud. We have realized really that after 3 years of research and investing almost 24 million euros in INREDIS, we have realized interoperability architectures are the solution for guaranteeing interaction of all users with the ICT environments in an accessible and personalized way, but really the cloud computing and all the components that NPII and our national initiative social cloud is fostering is the future, and we have to invest new money and efforts in a coordinated and international approach to make it possible. So if you have any question, I think Greg is very open to start the debate before our break.
One question that somebody asked me just prior was, where did the NPII concept, come from? Where did it originate? And I said, well, the term came from our work at the University of Wisconsin, but the concept of this NPII is actually an evolution that has come from everywhere. This is sort of a bringing together of all of the ideas. If you look at the INREDIS and you look at all of the principles and stuff that you've been drawing out, you can just see a blueprint for most of the core ideas there. So this is really an international, and the people that have been pulling this idea together have been international. Jose and Utah in Canada and in the United States, and people in Norway and in Germany and in England and in Japan. And we've all been sort of communicating and talking about this and seeing where things are trying to go. And so the NPII is the pulling together of all these things and saying, and actually the way it started off, well, we need to do this. And then we said, well, yeah, but that's only part of the story. If we only do part of the story, it's when I talked about this being, three legs of the stool on this slide. It really is a three-legged stool. We can put the cloud stuff up there, but if we don't have the rich development environment, we're going to have a cloud with nothing in it, or with just a few things, and it's really not going to address the needs of all the different disabilities. And so we really began, and so the NPII evolved over the last year or so by bringing together and then having teams of people look at it and say, yeah, that's almost there, but what about X? And so the NPI is the culmination, not just of the work of everybody over the last year, but the culmination of our work over the last decade and the realizations that we have come to. Bringing it together and putting it down in a package where we can begin to really see. And the reaction that I get almost universally and as we bring these ideas out is yes, we're all working on pieces, but we've never seen sort of the vision, if you will, for bringing it together in a cohesive fashion. The other thing that we need to do is we need to get the buy-in from the governments, because they're spending, in our country alone, we spent $7 billion, 5+ billion euros, just trying to connect people. They talk about the last mile, trying to make sure that they lay the middle mile and the last mile. And so when you turn in comments to them, and I says, well, that's great, but how about the last foot? And they said, the last foot? And I said, yes. We now have it where we have these homes connected, and yet the interface won't work for them. So you ring it all the way up, but we don't have an interface they can use. So there's the last foot, which is the interface, doesn't exist for this population. And so they did a study, and they found out that the uptake problem is just much greater for people who have disabilities and who are older. And they go in, they get all sorts of reasons. The internet hasn't got anything on it for me. And usually what they find is that the people can't use it, and or the internet makes them feel stupid. How many here have had their cell phone or their computer or something else make them feel stupid? We were sitting the other day in a meeting, and the projector made us feel stupid. We had a whole room full of very bright people, and we couldn't get the projector to work. And eventually it was a matter of figuring out, which combinations of buttons to push in the right order. But why do we have technologies that make us feel stupid? And if they make us feel stupid, okay, and we're way up, you're way up in the, that top couple percentage, what about the rest of the population? And what happens when you have technologies that make you feel stupid? You avoid them. My wife, whenever every 2 years, we get new cell phones, right? That's part of the plan. They give you new cell phones every 2 years. And so I come to her and say, hey, well, I can get you a new cell phone. Nope, she doesn't want it. And she says, I have this one. I like it. I can use it. I said, but you can get a brand new one. No, I want to keep the old one. She never changed her cell phone until it literally broke and fell in half, and she didn't have any choice. So we got her a new one. I got my iPhone, and so I took my iPhone out of the box, and I turned it on, and I started doing stuff, and she said, can I see that? And I went, what? I have an iPhone, and you who don't ever want to change technology, you want a smartphone? And she said, yeah, it doesn't look hard. Let me see it. So I handed it to her, and she very quickly launched in a couple of apps. She was typing away at it. She can actually type away twice as fast as I can. And I says, well, I didn't think you'd want one of those. And she says, well, not those other ones. You can never figure them out, but this is really easy. And so somebody that I took as not wanting an advanced phone, the only difference was that the other one made her just feel stupid. It was so hard to figure out how to use it. And I had to tell her, I says, well, Kate, when I get a new cell phone, it does the same thing to me. I sit there and I swear and I mumble, but I'm not supposed to I have this inner drive that you have to master the new technologies, so I overcome them. But the phones, and I'm sure you've all had them, I actually programmed my old phone before I had an iPhone, and I set it all up the way I wanted it to, and then the battery went dead and it forgot. And I never reprogrammed it because it just was too much work and too complicated. So, we have a classic example of many, many people who aren't on the internet, and the reasons they give may not be the real reasons. Often the real reason is it's just too complicated or too hard, or they can't see well enough. So there's all sorts of reasons like, well, there's nothing on the internet that interests me. And we know that that's probably not true because there's everything on the internet. If all you do is want to garden, there's all sorts of great garden stuff on the internet. So how do we figure out how to break down that barrier? And that led us to this sort of idea of the NPII and having things that can change to be simpler for people who want them simpler, that can be more complicated for people who want them to be more complicated. But the very act of making it look like what you want is too complicated. And so how can we overcome that? If we can get the governments to invest, and we have begun doing that, and Jose did a lot of lobbying that's helped. There's a new action out. And so I've spent the last 2 years just coming back to Europe and talking with the European Commission, et cetera, to try and get them to begin thinking first about this concept of raising the floor and then the NPII. And so while I'm doing that, biasing it, and none of this money will ever flow in my direction because I'm in the United States. So I'm a good external provocateur, if you would. And then Jose coming up from within the Europe and saying yes, and this is what your research that you funded is pointing to as well. And these are the kinds of things you ought to be doing and helping to shape. And the culmination of this and input from others has now resulted in the European Commission beginning the journey. And they have an action out to begin addressing this. It's only a small amount of the funds it actually takes to build the infrastructure, but it's a key beginning. And we need to do that. Once we can get the infrastructure down, we talk about it's like roads, not cars. The infrastructure is building the parts that we talked about that no company can build. See, if you have car companies and they can all build cars, but if you said, okay, well, that's nice, but roads, we have research to show that roads would make it a lot better. You could run, cars would cost less, they would last longer, they'd go faster, they would use less gasoline. And so car companies, we've proven it, that roads will be better, so why don't you go build roads?